Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another Division video, and in today's video we are talking survival, and I say we because I'm joined by TwoSixNine. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hello. Hello.
Cool.
Hello.
So we thought, because of course survival is in PTS right now, we would chat about it because we are, well, we've been asking for this basically since the game came out. In fact, before that, Alpha, remember the days where we used to jump in the podcast with Hamish and he was like, what do you want in the game? We're like, Battle Royale and raids. We don't have raids right now, that is a topic for another time. But Battle Royale, in a kind of format, is in-game now. So, as people that both also play a lot of Battle Royale, things like Armour, BR, 26, I know you've also played some H1Z1 and stuff, so there are a few things that we would personally like to see added to the mode. So we thought we'd kind of talk about survival, talk about how it can be improved, some of the changes to the mode and whatnot, and yeah. So, let's kick things off. General thoughts. 26, how about you start? How are you finding survival?
Well, it's definitely got me excited for the game again. I think it's a really good mode and addition. I love the atmosphere of it. I think it really works well in the Division. In terms of like the snowstorm and all that stuff that's going on, and I like how intense it is as well.
Yeah.
With the combat and the fact that you start all at the same kind of tier of stuff as well is something that I thought was a good game design choice, because I was kind of worried about how they were going to implement that, if they were going to ever implement a version of Battle Royale, how players would start out and what they would do if they would just went in there with their loot, because obviously more people are geared and blah blah blah. It's going to make it a lot easier, and the fact that you have your skills taken away is kind of stripped back bare in terms of
it's really awesome
what you're doing. So
I think it's kind of worth adding to the beginning. I mean, like I'm super enjoying this mode. I think it's definitely, to kind of echo what 26 said, it's like a really nice fresh thing for Division. For a long time people have been asking for like a kind of, I know it's not necessarily the dedicated PvP space, people were like, oh, we just want like a team deathmatch or something, but it is a different mode that people can kind of go into if they want that thing. So I am, as a whole, super enjoying it. However, as someone that's a huge fan of specifically Battle Royale game modes, there are a few things that I think should be or could be done to kind of add to the atmosphere. Because the one thing that's my one and only kind of like major gripe with survival is that it's got some really good moments. You kind of got that tension, especially like if you're playing solo. I've done a lot of sort of like testing solo because I wanted to make sure that the solo players got their representation this time around. So I've done a lot of playing solo, and when you're running through the storm and you're especially when it's early on, you're balancing out the cold. You're trying to sort of like work out if you can run to the next destination and deal with NPCs. And then if you're if you're on a PvP server and you get run up on by players, it's like there's some really good atmosphere, and especially if you've also spent time gearing up, getting some good skills, getting some good equipment. If you then die sort of on your way to the dark zone, it's a little bit annoying. I mean, like in a kind of normal way, not in like a frustration way. It's just like, oh man, I worked for that stuff. So really good ideas, but the one thing it lacks is the fact that it's not about last man standing. And I appreciate, some people may say, well, it was never intended to be that. It's not, I suppose it's more comparable to, say, DayZ than it is Battle Royale, in that, it's more about just surviving and, getting out from there.
It's not about intentions, though. It's about, I feel, missed opportunities. Yeah. If they don't do this, then they're losing out, like, big time in terms of replayability for the mode and how fun the community can do it, and how, like, I wouldn't say how watchable and viewable it is as well for other people to actually like see, and how fun it is for other people as well. Yeah, there's nothing if it's like minimal risk versus reward, then there's no real reason to kind of go in there and just play it for the sake of the game mode. If we strip away the fact that you get loot and all that stuff, this mode should be fun in itself, right? Yeah,
I mean, when you consider you play Battle Royale for nothing more than the glory of being the last man alive. So I mean, and in fact, I think it's super important just for a second, just to kind of clarify, because Battle Royale is such a kind of weird mode to kind of get into, and it's normally mod, so there's a bit of a high barrier to entry. To anyone that doesn't understand the conventional Battle Royale, in like a game mode like Armour, you're dropped into a massive map, normally with something like 64 players, and you have nothing but the clothes on your back. You have no equipment. You don't even have a gun. You have to run around buildings and gather gear, gather guns, gather armour. And there's a circle on a map which progressively gets smaller. If you're stuck outside the circle, you die. And then it shrinks, so it forces everyone constantly inside the map, to the point where the circle becomes so small at the end that if there are like 5 or 10 people left inside, you're fighting people that are, like 20, 50 meters ahead of you, like in front of you. So it's like a really intense mode, because with every single shrink, you're risking like, I need to gear up, but I also need to move in. And there are like so many really cool moments, and because of that, you always have these really, really like adrenaline-filled matches where at the end it's down to the wire. You're maybe hiding in the bush and you're like, oh, I don't want to be seen. If I step out, someone might see me. Because, for example, if you can't see where the last player is and you make a wrong move and they see you but you don't see them, you're dead, right? So that's the kind of tension you get in Battle Royale. And the one thing that you don't get with that in Survival is because every single person can win. It's a mode where, you get to the helicopter, and even if you call in the helicopter first, the people that are still playing can still progressively work through at their own pace and finish it. So there's no notion of, it doesn't have that pressure. And I'm not saying, I'm not necessarily saying that we should kind of abandon the mode as it exists now, because, I appreciate there are some people that don't necessarily want that, ultra competitive adrenaline-filled mode. But I think 2.6, you suggest a really good idea. The way they can kind of fix this is to add an additional mode. There's PvP search, there's PvE search. What if you add like a heroic playlist, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I think additional, there's a couple of playlists that actually need to be added to this game mode just to round it out and make it a full-fledged experience. There needs to be a solo queue for players.
Yeah.
That's a whole different topic in itself.
I did hear for that one. Apparently, the reason that it wasn't in this one was because they were limited servers. But for the full game, apparently they wouldn't match solo players and group players. But I mean, I don't know, but I still agree.
But that's always going to happen regardless
true.
of output, right? Because there's not going to be everyone searching at the other time. It's not going to be a situation where there's non-optimal stuff and people are getting ganked by more players.
Yeah,
and if you don't want that experience, then there should be a solo queue for you, and that's how all the other Battle Royale games do it. There's a solo server that you can go into.
And you physically can't group. And then there's a group allowed server that you can go into, which has more loose rules, and people can go into there however they want and play with their friends, which is fine. I think groups should be part of it, and I think solo players should have their own queue that they can go into as well if they want that experience. Yeah.
Because then it makes a game mode for everybody, right? People that come home from work, they can chill out, play by themselves. They don't need to get a group together. They're not just about to get into the dark zone and get ganked by a group of 4, and there's nothing that they can really do about it, because your fighting force when you're solo in survival is a lot less. You've got a lot less health. You've got a lot less survivability because you don't have heal, and you have... and you don't want to take you're risk averse because you don't want to commit to all the combat that's going on there. So you're not going to want to take down 4 guys, and if you do, you're just like a god tier player if you can take down 4 guys in survival by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's so important as well to kind of clarify to people so our idea of a heroic playlist, and the reason this is good as well, because I can appreciate there's one thing that there's always this kind of worry from say console players when a PTS happens. Feedback videos like this are great, but the worry as well is it's like, well, all right, if you're going to put feedback in and then massive listen to it, and then they spend too much time changing the game, then it delays it for everyone else, which I can appreciate is a understandable thing. So the nice thing about a heroic playlist idea is it's something that if they do decide to listen to this, they could even implement it post-launch. If they didn't want to push back survival launch, they could launch it as it exists now and then drop a playlist later on. But for those kind of with sort of that want a clearer idea, our idea of a heroic playlist would be. It focuses a lot more on last man standing. See, there are a few gameplay mechanics that exist right now that are in the mode that they could just use in a slightly different way. Yeah,
we're talking about minimal changes here and adapting what currently exists to fit in with the format of this new heroic mode.
Yeah, so to match a regular battle royale, what you would firstly do is the storm itself that kind of keeps you cold would be a lot more severe to the point where there would be say a global timer, and the longer you stay in the outskirts, the more fierce the storm becomes. So at first, it pushes down your health, you have to stay alive, fair enough, but if you spend too long on the outskirts, maybe for those players that spend really, really long gathering materials, the storm becomes so fierce to the point where if you're in that part of the storm, you will die. It can be...
Yeah, the temperature drops dramatically, so meaning that you can basically... You're freezing to death, quite quickly.
So that part can shrink to the point where it will naturally, if people are taking too long, it will force them into the dark zone. I also feel like there should be... on a per-match basis, a designated extraction point, right? It can be... Because the problem that you have now as well in survival is that, and this is also something that removes a lot of the adrenaline moments, is because you can use any extraction point in the dark zone, you could go in and get your antivirals and go all the way to DZ06, call in your extraction, and if someone in DZ01 wants to fight, by the time they've got there, you've killed your hunters, you've got on your helicopter, and there's nothing really they can do about it, right? So I think the thing about having one designated extraction point means that if everyone has to get out, they have to go to that one. I think they should also make it so that you have some kind of... I know we've got a slight difference of opinion on this one, but my idea is that we should have a fixed time on extraction. It then means that every single match would last, say, 45 minutes, and it means that there is one helicopter that can come in on a 45-minute timer, and it's only got maybe, it's either got one seat if you want to go last man standing, or if you want to support teams, it's got 4 seats, right? But the idea is that only one person or one team of people can win the mode, can get out and can kind of get their loot out. It then means that people are constantly, A, trying to move inside to avoid the storm, B, trying to gear up, and C, trying to make sure that by the time they are in the middle of the circle, by the time the helicopter comes in, they are ready to fight because they know they're going to have to fight if they want to get out. And then that way, you have kind of you have this battle royale experience that I think a lot of people do want to experience, and it fits into the existing game mode.
Yeah, I think that could possibly work. I did feel like maybe that will make the length of the matches quite long.
Yeah.
But then that might flow better anyway in terms of the gameplay. But I was thinking maybe the flare gun, the first person to call in the helicopter, basically starts the countdown for the designated helicopter to actually come in, so that the rounds can actually end quicker than the presumed time of like 45 minutes, because not that everybody's got 45 minutes to play a complete session, right? So
that's true.
They I guess they could die or not play the game mode or not commit to it, but you kind of want everybody to have fun, and if you can get skilled enough to make the sessions quicker, then you should be rewarded.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, because you could then be like ultra efficient, right? You find the exact materials you need, make exactly what you need, run to the center. It's going to be a lot more risky for you because you're not going to be geared. But
so it's own kind of meta game of I'm going to do the quick extraction rather than go for gearing up and stuff. And people should have options in terms of how they're going to encounter combat and focus on their build to be the way that they feel deemed to be successful in the way that they can combat everything. So definitely I feel that's one way to go about it, but your way is definitely a cool proposition. I do feel like the helicopter that is called in should have 4 seats, and players can kill other players if they want to within the helicopter before they get to it, and use it before it extracts and be the only person on that helicopter, or a mixed group of people that don't know each other.
So it's not quite last man standing.
It's not quite last man standing, but it's like in a group of 24 people that are on the server, only 4 people can get on. And it creates these crazy situations of if the person's in the helicopter as well, and there's one person in the helicopter and a group of 4 come, one of those 3 people are not going to be able to get on that helicopter. So what's going to happen in that situation? So it kind of takes that rogue situation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean that would be nice. I mean, because the thing that that adds. I mean, just to kind of like clarify again for people, the thing that adds, it adds the constant pressure, right? Because the one thing about these kind of survival modes is like you always have that notion of if you see someone, in most battle royale games it's shoot on sight, right? Whereas in Division, because I've been, sometimes I trust people in the dark zone. I don't know why, but in survival I think twice before I shoot someone. But because the way the mode, because it's the way that the mode is, right? It's not quite as offensive, or like down to the nail as like some of the other ones. So this
dog eat dog. Like,
exactly. Yeah. But this notion of A, forcing people in, B, having a timer, and C, only limited spaces, especially also when you consider loot. I mean, like I know, I play battle royale game modes just for fun, right? But in the Division, you can play it for loot. So if you know that if you are one of the people on the helicopter, and because the nice thing about survival, right, is even if you die, even if you don't get to the helicopter, you still get rewards at the end. So in that respect, everyone wins, right? But it does mean that if you get some of those seal caches and you like, I need to get on this helicopter, like I have to be there, you're gonna fight, whether you want to or not. And I mean, remember at all times, we're not in any way proposing the removal of the PvE playlist. So if this is not, if for those of you guys that listen to this and you're like, well, I don't like PvP, this doesn't sound fun, fair enough, because there's still a PvE mode. But for those people that want that down to the wire, the dog eat dog kind of mode, I feel like this is something that would fit into survival as it exists right now. Wouldn't require drastic changes. Wouldn't require months of work to overhaul. You could literally, use the existing mechanics and make it into a playlist that could be, because there will be so much replay value in that, right? When I first heard about survival, I saw the trailer before I saw the state of the game, and I was like, we knew exactly what it was. I was like, if this is exactly what I think it is, if it's like BR and like Last Man Standing, it will be incredible. So, it's still a great mode, but I think this could be the super important thing.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. It's just not intense enough, and I don't know what the replayability of the PvP mode is going to be like. Why would you play PvP when you can just go to PvE and essentially get all the loot that you need? Because you're playing this mode because there's a lot more loot right at the moment. You can get some good stuff. You can get some caches and stuff like that, but the actual fun aspect of it, it's intense, but the actual fun aspect of it is, I don't feel personally is there for me at the moment.
Yeah.
It's close to it. It's like got glimmers and it's very promising. It's like 75% there, but then just need to just commit to the survival aspect of it, and the last man kind of aspects of it, and just go all in. Just go all in.
Yeah, I mean, there needs to, because there needs to be that achievement, right? Like if you win, like to anyone that hasn't played a battle royale game, you don't win very often, right? We've played hundreds of games in Arma, and we've probably won. You can probably count on one hand how many times we've won, right? That's how rare it is. But when you do get that win, you feel so good. But when you first get on the helicopter, you don't quite get that feeling.
It's a relief, but it's not.
It's a relief, but it's not like a success. It's not like a yes, I've done it kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because also the thing is you have that downtime as well, right? You have the part where this is one of the other things I think at the end is like the introduction of hunters. Hunters are amazing, right? They are probably one of the coolest NPCs or like factions I have seen. Well, they are the coolest. They move like players. They're not massively difficult to fight, but they're a challenge, right? And they're brutal as well. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the clip, but in fact I'll try and sync it up when I'm speaking about this. But there is the hunters. If you get too close, they have an axe and they can just melee you down to the ground, and then they have like a Gears of War style curb stomp that they basically just finish you off. So they're brutal. They're really cool. But the problem with them is if you kill them and you have 2 minutes on your extraction, once your hunter is dead, you just wait by the helicopter, right? And that is something that, again, if you had the heroic playlist, right, and there was also the notion of if you had to deal with hunters and players, I mean, imagine that, right? You'd call in the helicopter would come in, you'd be like, all right, I have to deal with my hunter. Now the hunter's dead. You're like, right, now I've got to survive for like another minute and wait for these players that are going to come in. All that kind of stuff. That could be I'm
not too sure about that one. If it's going to be last man standing, I don't think there should be hunters as well at that point. I think hunters should be just around in the game world, and if you run into them, they like lock onto you. And
maybe hunters are part of the storm. Maybe when the storm starts shrinking, they start coming out the storm at the back. Maybe they got cold gear on. If you're dragging behind, they'll just like take you out. Yeah,
and they progressively get closer to the center of the circle.
Yeah,
it's just that I feel like if the zone's going to be a lot smaller, then obviously you're not going to have a lot of options, and you're going to be fighting a lot more players and hunters at the same time. It's not going to be like now where you come across like one player or one other group. When you're going to extract, it's going to be
24
a lot of players, and
True. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, again, you could have the hunters for like the PvP mode and non-heroic or something like that. But
exactly.
True. Also, go on.
Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, the last thing is on the notion of, like, what we're talking about feedback, one thing that does probably need to be addressed is the PvE mode, because I think loot that drops needs to be private, because one thing that I have seen happen is that you can steal loot from someone and they can do nothing about it, because in the PvE mode you can't you can't hurt players, right? But what a player can do is see another player, watch them fight NPCs, and when the loot drops, to run past and grab their loot, and then the other player, there's nothing they can do about it. They're like, you've just taken my loot, but I can't actually fight back because I'm in a PvE server. I think that kind of
change to private loot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not hugely game breaking because it's not like it's gonna affect you too much, but at the same time, it's a bit in a mode that doesn't promote PvP. You kind of need to at least support the PvE player, right? So yeah, it's just a minor thing, but I think it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and in some of the kind of less hardcore focus servers, I've definitely, or maybe even in the hardcore server, I think there needs to be more focus on the consumables and things as well. I think Thirst needs to do a bit more, and Hunger definitely needs to do a bit more than it's currently doing at the moment. Like, if you don't have those things on, then it should be detrimental to your health. And
it should be like if you're thirsty, like your aim actually shakes or something, so you have to. Because I mean, again, you look at like Armor, right? And if you're on low health, it's a struggle to aim.
Yeah.
I mean that would be really cool. And also, the infection, right? I mean, the infection is like, if it's supposed to be the thing that keeps you going, but realistically, I mean, half the time I forget to take my medicine, and then at the end I'm like, oh crap, I better use it, and then you just keep freezing your infection for a while. I think the medicine either needs to be less effective, or the virus needs to be more potent, because right now it's little more than a timer. If again it started having an effect, if it was like you haven't taken your meds, you're starting to lose health or something, I'd use it more. But because of that, at the moment it's just like a timer you never really see.
Yeah.
So that probably needs to be amped up.
And ammo as well. I know there's it's a different situation, but like some of the fun in BR games is that you just don't have enough ammo.
Yeah.
Ammo is a limited resource that you need to use sparingly, and you need to choose your engagements based on your ammo count and what you do and stuff. So even if you picked up an AR with like the strongest bullets, you might not necessarily want to use that against NPCs, so you might use your pistol and then only use your AR for players while you're doing your combat. So it's just the thoughts and the kind of plans that you go out when you're doing the survival just needs to be a bit more intense, thoughtful, maybe even slow down the game a bit more as well, because we're essentially just running around with nonchalantly, with just a little bit of risk. There definitely needs to be more risk going on in the game world right now, and it definitely needs to be a last stand mode.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well in that case, I think so. That's pretty much it. So as a recap, I'm gonna put our points on screen so you guys can sort of see in summary what we're talking about. But that is basically how we would like to see survival go. As a as a reminder, it's like a separate mode, standalone thing. So this would still fit within the kind of development timeline and whatnot. But I feel like it's definitely something that would hugely benefit the mode and also massively benefit replay value. Because bear in mind as well, once survival goes live, we don't know how long until we get last stand. So this next update needs to keep us busy for the foreseeable future. And a PvE mode, survival as it currently exists, will definitely keep you busy for a while. Super enjoy it, have fun with it. But if it was last man standing BR, I will play this game forever. But anyway, for the time being, that's it. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Obviously, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Let us know if you guys have got any different ideas and whatnot. But either way, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.